Thank you very much, Neeta. And good morning, everyone, and look forward to a great session today. It's been excellent yesterday to hear all the good practices happening both here in Turkey as well as in other places around the world. And today, in the next 2 hours, what we'll do is to do a deep dive into one aspect, which we've seen a little bit of yesterday and outside as well, which is on technology. And as we know, forests are a key part of our landscapes that we have around us. And forest fires are a great problem for a lot of the forests around the world. And there's many ways to manage this better. We've always had forest fires, but what's new is technology. In the last few decades, especially in the last few years or months, there's been lots of advances in technology which give us a lot of hope in terms of managing forests and forest fires better. And in this regard, at the bank, we think of these disruptive technologies, as we call them, in 3 big buckets. One to do with the data value chain disruption, which is to go from collecting data, as we saw, from sensors on the ground or Earth observation from satellites or drones or people entering data, and analyzing all of these so that you can go up the data value chain from data to information to knowledge to decision support relating to either planning or real-time operations. The second big bucket of technology that's out there is less on the software and more on the hardware. So all the 3D printing, the drones, the automation, new materials, energy technologies, environmental technologies. So a lot of the hardware part of it, which is also changing by the day. And we'll see some of that as well today. The third big bucket that we look at is disrupting stakeholder interaction. So the way in which, for example, today we will see in this session as well as in yesterday's session, we can connect up with people around the world and share ideas, share money, the Uberization of the world, being able to have data hackathons, being able to look at stakeholders collaborating with each other in the virtual space in different ways to better manage forests or forest fires or forest products for that matter. So with these 3 types of disruptions that are happening, there's a lot of things that are changing around the world. But the one big disruption, which we didn't hear very explicitly yesterday, but is there in the undercurrent of everything everyone is doing. And if we have this conference another 3-4 years from now, we will see pretty much 90% of the sessions dedicated to that would be AI, right? So AI is going to be changing everything we do, right? So this is where it's going to disrupt all the 3 types of technologies that we are looking at. And it's also going to be a very different way in which we will be looking at AI to generate data, to manage the hardware, to be able to fill in gaps, to look at trends, to do generative AI so that you can have discussions with it. So we may go away from a lot of what we think is good practice today to trying to look at good practice tomorrow. It says on the plane coming in, I saw this great biopic, Complete Unknown. And one of the key songs there, which was written even before I was born by Bob Dylan, was "The Times There Are A-Changing," right? So that's the key thing here, that you have a lot of technologies that will be the great leveler in some ways, and it may give people the last mover advantage also, right? So people who are in the lead today may find suddenly that they have a lot of obsolete technology, and then tomorrow you have to keep moving ahead to try and keep up with the technology that's around the world. And that is the key as we look ahead at things becoming faster, cheaper, better, using a lot of these new technologies, that everyone will have more and more of the technologies in their pockets so that you can be able to better get access to data and better make decisions that are needed for these groups. So this global good practice is forever changing, and we'll have to keep changing with it over time. And that's why it's really important to have sessions like this where we all gather together to share all the different lessons that we have from around the world and look at the cutting edge that's happening, because it'll give us a sign of things to come and the disruptions to come as well. So what we'll do today is have 3 mini sessions here. One is an opening where we will have 2 people from Turkey first, and then we have South Korea to give us a government perspective in terms of what kinds of technology is being used from that perspective. Then we have a middle section, which will be a lot of really cool private sector angles in terms of about 7 lightning talks, as we call it. And some of them have booths outside as well, so you can follow up with them afterwards as well. Even though the talks will be short, we think it'll provide a lot of stimulation for new ways of thinking about technology. And we'll end with 2 discussants. We have folks from the X Prize and Google who will be coming in and giving us a perspective of what they thought about this and other elements that they would like to add in terms of where they think technology is going as well. So we are in for a real treat. So let's watch disruptive tech in action. I will introduce the speakers as they come along. First up, we have from Turkey, Mr. İlhami Aydın, who graduated from RCS University in electronics, and he's spent from 1985 to this year. He's been working in various levels at the General Directorate of Forestry in the Department of Forest Fire Fighting, and he's worked on everything, projects such as forest fire management systems, forest fire early warning systems, digital radio communication systems, fixed and mobile solar energy systems, simulation project, which I don't even know what that is, for fire managers, and reconnaissance, surveying, helicopter projects, unmanned aerial vehicles. So you get the idea, virtual reality, so all the techie stuff related to forest fire management. So let's first hear from him, and then we'll move on to our speaker from Korea. Over to you, Mr. İlhami. And if you haven't picked these up, please do pick these up. We'll have presentations in both Turkish and in English today.
Teşekkür ediyorum Sayın Başkanım. Herkese günaydınlar, iyi çalışmalar diyorum. Evet, orman yangınlarının değişen dünyada iklim değişikliğiyle beraber yeni yüzünden bahsetmek istiyorum bugün sizlere. Dünya Bankası, Amerikan Okyanus Araştırma Enstitüsü, Türkiye'de Meteoroloji Genel Müdürlüğü hep bir konuda birleştiler. İklim değişikliği sonucunda 2100 yılına kadar tüm dünyada orman yangınlarının sayısı bugünkünün en az 2 katı olacak. En önemlisi buradaki yangınların sayısıyla beraber yangınların şiddeti artacak. Artık bu yangınlar ülkelerin sadece tek başlarına mücadele edebilecekleri sınırları aştılar. Ne yazıktır ki ülkemiz dahil olmak üzere tüm yılda kaybedilen ormanların %90'ı yangınların %10'una denk geliyor. Ülkemizde 2021 yılında tüm yılda 140 bine yakın orman alanı yanmışken 140 bin hektar. Bu 10 günde 133 bin hektar yandı. Bu da şunu gösteriyor. Bizim şeklimizi, bakış açımızı değiştirmemiz lazım. Hava araçları, kara araçları yangının belli bir noktasına kadar etkili. Sonrasında en son Amerika'da gördüğümüz gibi, en son Kanada'da gördüğümüz gibi insan gücünün ötesine geçen yangınlara doğru bir gidiş var. Artık yangınları bilinen yöntemlerin dışında yapay zeka ve teknolojiyle en azından yardımları olabilir mi diye bakmaya başladık. Ülkemizdeki orman yangınlarının hassasiyetini ekranda görüyorsunuz. %64'ü orman yangınlarına hassas. Ancak gelecekte iklim değişikliğine paralel olarak özellikle Karadeniz bölgesinde de yangınların artabileceğini düşünüyoruz. Yangınlarla kuraklığa baktığımızda bu yeşil ile gösterilen noktalar 1000 hektarın üzerindeki yangınlar. Dikkat ederseniz bunların tamamı da kuraklığın getirdiği sonuçların en yıkıcılarından bir tanesi. Bu geçen sene ilginç olduğu için bu resmi koyuyorum. Bu yangının, Bolu'daki yangının başlangıcı. Bir video daha vardı, onu oynatabilir miyiz yanında? Hemen yanında. Bu yangının başlangıcı, yangının 3 saat sonra geldiği duruma bakın. Aslında yaklaşık 40 yıldır Orman Genel Müdürlüğü'nde çalışıyorum. Bu derece şiddetli, bu derece yakıcı bir yangını göremedik. Ki bu yangındaki ortaya çıkan enerjinin gücü 10.000 megawatt. Biz 10.000 kilovata müdahale edilmez derken 10.000 megawattlık bir yangından bahsediyoruz. Evet, yangınların değişen yüzü. Orman Genel Müdürü olarak biz dijital yangınlardaki teknoloji kurumuna değişmeye 2007 yılında başladık. 2007 yılındaki teknolojiye baktığımızda bugün bunların tamamını uyguladık ama Sayın Başkan'ın da dediği gibi geriye dönüp baktığımızda çok sıradan olduğunu görüyoruz. Yangınları önleme ve öncesinde ne yapıyoruz? Bu Meteoroloji Genel Müdürlüğü tarafından Orman Genel Müdürlüğü için üretilen 3 günlük haritalar. Bu pembelerin olduğu yerler yangın çıkma riski en yüksek olan yerler. Diğerleri de daha düşük riskli. Bu yangınlar, bu risk haritayı 3 gün öncesinden alıyoruz. Dolayısıyla birkaç gün öncesinden bu riskin yüksek olduğu yerlerde hem hava araçları hem kara araçları hem de teşkilatımız çok daha yoğun bir şekilde çalışıyor. Sadece bununla kalmadık. Burada yapay zekayı, büyük veriyi kullanarak acaba orman yangınlarının veriye dayalı olarak nerede çıkabileceğini tahmin edebilir miyiz? Bu ülkemizdeki büyük bir kuruluşla beraber yaptığımız gönüllülük projesi. Buradaki yaptığımız konu, geçmiş 50 yıllık verileri aldık. Geçmiş 50 yıllık meteorolojik ve yangın verilerini aldık. Bu yangın verilerini veriden hareketle yangının çıktığı zamanlardaki veriye bağlı olarak günde yaklaşık olarak 3 günlük haritalarda yangının yerini tespit edebiliyoruz. Bu projeyi Türkiye'deki Koç Holding ile beraber yaptık ve bu Koç Holding bunu Birleşmiş Milletler arkasından da Fransa'da 2025 yılında yapılan Avrupa Yapay Zeka Zirvesi'nde 800 proje arasında ilk 20'ye girdi. Ve burada biz 400'e yakın veri kullandık. Kullandıkça daha fazla veriye, daha fazla girdiye ihtiyacımızın olduğunu anladık. Şu anda bu projeyle yangınları tahmin oranı yaklaşık %86. Halen bunun %90'lara çıkmakla ilgili çalışmalarımız devam ediyor. İkinci konu, bu 2007 yılında başladığımız acaba yangın araçlarına, hava araçlarına, kara araçlarına araç takip sistemi, ki bugün çok basit gelen araç takip sistemini kullanarak ne yapabiliriz diye başladık. Şu anda 12.000 üzerinde aracımızda araç takip sistemi var. Sadece araç takip değil, artık bu bizim sanal gözümüz, bilgi depomuz. Artık bu bizim hayatımızın ayrılmaz bir parçası oldu. Araç gereç konusunda herhangi Türkiye'nin problemi yok. Sağ olsun bu projeyle, İDOP projesi kapsamında da mevcut araçlarımızın ihtiyaçlarının yenilenmesinin karşılanması ve yeni ihtiyaçların temin edilmesi sağlanacaktır. Hava araçları konusunda da oldukça iyi bir noktadayız. Hava araçları konusunda ekranda gördüğünüz burası bizim yangın hassas bölgelerimiz. 1 saat içinde kıyı bölgelerinde kaç tane hava aracı toplayabileceğimizin bir hesaplamasını yaptık. Mesela Muğla'da ki en hassas bölgemiz yaklaşık bir haftada 26 saatte 26 hava aracı toplayabiliyoruz. Sadece havadan değil aynı zamanda karadan da bazı tedbirlerimiz var. Özellikle biz yakın zamana kadar insanlı gözetleme sistemleri kullanıyorduk. 2007 yılından sonra da bunu insansız ve yapay zeka destekli sistemlere dönüştürdük. Şu ana kadar 184 kulemizde 368 kameramız var. Bu projeyle birlikte, İDOP projesiyle birlikte kamera sayısını yaklaşık olarak 600'e çıkarıp bazı kulelerimizi tamamıyla insansız hale getirerek burada da ekonomik bir değer sağlamak istiyoruz. Yine dünyanın çok az ülkesinde olan hava araçlarımızdan bir tanesi. Bununla da yangın sırasında ihtiyaç olabilecek anlık bilginin tamamı bu şekilde hava aracımızdan sağlanarak gerekli yönlendirmeler, gerekli yerlere anlık olarak yapılıyor ve kamuoyuna aynı zamanda teşkilatımıza çok doğru bilgilerin anlık olarak verilmesini sağlıyoruz. Daha önce bu araçtan benzer bir araç yaptırmıştık 2007 yılında. İhtiyaç değişti. Artık her yerin bir mobil ofis olduğu dünyada bizim de daha önceki araçlarımızın yetersiz olduğunu düşünerek yeni araçlar yapmaya başladık. Bu araçlarımızdan bir tanesi burada ihtiyaç duyabileceğimiz bir de tecrübemizi aktararak her türlü ihtiyacımızı karşılayabilecek araçlarımızla yaptırmış olduk. Buraya kadar hep önleme tedbirleriydi. Biz ne yapıyoruz? Biliyorsunuz Türkiye insansız hava araçları üretimi konusunda iyi bir noktada. Acaba insansız hava araçlarını orman yangınlarına kullanabilir miyiz diye yola çıktık. Bu 2017'de başladığımız projeydi. 2017'de önce denemelerle başladık. Orman teşkilatında şunun yapıldığını biliyorum. Yenilik önce pilot proje olarak başlıyor. Başarılı olursa devamını getiriyoruz. Şu anda Orman Genel Müdürlüğü'ne ait 12 tane hava aracı var. 2 tane de rezerv yüz kapsamında hava aracı var. Ne yapıyor bunlar? Ülkemizde yangınların en fazla çıktığı saatlerde ki bu yaz mevsiminde saat 10'dan başlayıp 18'e kadar olan süreçte yaklaşık olarak 10-12 saat havada kalarak yangınları vatandaştan ya kulelerden çok daha önceden haber alabiliyoruz. Havada kalış süresi yaklaşık 24 saat. Gerekirse biz bunları arka arkaya değiştirebiliyoruz. Bunlar yer kontrol istasyonlarına bağlı. Ve burada yaptığımız tespitlerde bir İHA ile ki birazdan videosunu göstereceğim. 100 kilometre mesafedeki yaklaşık 1 metrekare yangını çok rahatlıkla görebiliyoruz. Mesela Antalya Körfezi için söyleyeyim. Antalya'da 50 mil açıktan Antalya Körfezi'nin tamamını yaklaşık 1 dakikada tarayabiliyoruz. Ses var burada.
Holding the skies of this country day and night non-stop over the forests. We have fire watch towers at 776 points, mostly equipped with high-res and thermal cameras from steep hills to sharp slopes. We have cutting-edge fire management centers where UAVs and firefighting vehicles are placed based on real-time risk. Maps, all tower images are tracked real-time weather, wind and topography data are analyzed, fire development is pre-monitored with AI fog, and the real-time positions of land and air forces are displayed and managed throughout the fire process. We have over 25,000 forests. heroes with strong land and advanced air power. We have the General Directorate of Forestry, which protects and develops the lush forests of this country with technology fit for Turkey's centennial and nearly 2 centuries of experience. The forest is the homeland.
Hava araçlarımızın sayısını görüyorsunuz. Aslında biz hava araçları kurarken aslında aynı zamanda ekonomisini de hesaplıyoruz. Bize fayda maliyetini de hesaplıyoruz. Önce dediğim gibi 1 ile başladık. Şu anda 12 tane bizim, 2 tane de devletin diğer kurumları olmak üzere 14 tane hava aracımızla hizmet veriyoruz. Hava araçlarını alınca sadece bunun öyle olmayacağını biliyorduk. Aslında görüntü işlemeye ve yazılım sistemlerine de ihtiyacımızın olduğunu gördük. Kendimize uygun yazılımlar geliştirdik. Nedir bu yazılımlar? Hava aracı kalktığında nereye bakıyor? Baktığı yerde eğer bir ateş varsa burası orman mı? Acaba biz bunları, bu görüntüleri bir sonraki jenerasyona veri olarak nasıl aktarırız? Bu ve buna benzer programların şu anda tamamını yaptık ve çalışıyorlar. Sadece bununla yetinmedik. Acaba hava aracının etinden, sütünden yararlanabilir miyiz diye bir çalışma yaptık. Hava araçlarının altına kameralar kurarak acaba haritalandırma ve buna benzer yüksek doğruluklu konularda çalışabilir miyiz diye baktık. Burada acaba uzaktan nesne algılayabilir miyiz görüntü üzerinden? Bununla ilgili çalışmalar yaptık. Burada bir gemi tanımladık. Buradaki amacımız şuydu. Büyük yangınlar sırasında Orman Genel Müdürlüğü'nün araçları dışında devletin diğer araçları da geliyor. Acaba biz bu araçları uzaktan algılayabilir miyiz? Mesela bu çalışmayı yaptığımızda burada yaklaşık olarak 233 tane araç var ve bunların arazideki yerlerini gördük. Bunların bize faydası şu oluyor. Yangın amirleri bu görüntülere bakarak nerede hangi gücün tehlike altında veya gereksiz olduğunu bu şekilde algılayabiliyorlar. Burada bir yangının tespit anı. İHA'mız normal şartlarda bu şekilde geziyor. Bakın tespit ettiği şunu fark ettik. Enerjinin tespit edilmesiyle dumanın çıkması arasında yaklaşık 2 dakikalık bir fark var. Bu fark da şunu söylüyor bize. Yangınların gelişimi ve takibini ve yangınları anlamak, yapay zekayı öğretme konusunda bize oldukça büyük veriler, büyük yardımlar sağladı. Bu elde ettiğimiz görüntülerin tamamını arşivliyoruz. Bu görüntüleri tüm orman teşkilatı eş zamanlı olarak tüm bölgelerde aynı zamanda görebiliyor. Dolayısıyla her yangın uzmanı bu yangında ben olsam neyi daha güzel yapardım diye çalışmalarımız var. Amacımız bu görüntüleri yapay zeka öğleden sonra Başarsoft'la geliştirdiğimiz projede de altlık olarak kullanıyoruz. Yine burada ormanları aslında insanlar hep söylüyoruz. Orman yangınlarının büyük nedeni insan. Suçlu tespitinde ve takibinde de kullanabiliyoruz. Ve elimizde maddi delil de elde ediyoruz. Dolayısıyla bu şekilde de buna benzer görüntülerle mahkemelerde daha çabuk karar almalarını sağlayabiliyoruz. Bu görüntüleri aynı zamanda sadece bu değil, benzer yaban hayvanları vesaire gibi konularda bu görüntülerden faydalanıyoruz ve yapay zekaya da tekrar edeyim altlık olarak kullanıyoruz. İHA'lardan başka nasıl yararlanırız diye baktık. Biliyorsunuz teknolojiye bağımlılık beraberinde de yeni ihtiyaçlar ortaya çıkıyor. Bizim özellikle araçlarımızın tamamında ya da yangın yönetim araçlarımızın tamamında teknoloji cihazlar. Dolayısıyla GSM'e ihtiyacımız oluyor. Acaba şunu yapabilir miyiz diye başladık. İHA'ların altına baz istasyonu kurarak olağanüstü hallerde, özellikle bizim için olağanüstü hallerde GSM ihtiyacımızı karşılayabilir miyiz? Bunu da ülkemizde yaptık. Bizim bütün bu yaptığımız baz istasyonuyla İHA'dan 2022 yılında yaptık ve son yangınlarda ve depremleri kullandık. Sağ tarafta da 2023 yılında ülkemizde meydana gelen depremde hava şartlarından dolayı bölgeden hiçbir hava aracı kalkamamıştı. Ankara'dan bu hava aracını kalkarak, ki bunun havada kalış süresi, bu hava aracı için söylüyorum, yaklaşık 55 saat. Hem GSM ihtiyacını karşıladık bölgenin, hem de deprem çalışmaları sırasında yapılan çalışmaları eş zamanlı olarak gördük. Az önce söyledim, acaba biz yine instans hava araçlarından haritalandırma yapabilir miyiz? Çünkü bazı uluslararası harita firmalarının haritaları bizim için bazen çok eski olabiliyor. Burası Marmaris. Marmaris'te 2021 yılında meydana gelen yangından sonra sol taraftaki haritayı 5 ile 10 santim arasında hassasiyetle çektik ve burada şunu fark ettik. Aslında biz bu gördüğünüz teraslamalardaki teras ölçümleri ya da ormanlar daha önce orman olup daha sonra vatandaş buraya herhangi bir şekilde işgal etmiş mi? Bu ve buna benzer sistemleri de çok rahatlıkla yapabildiğimizi gördük. Dün de söylendi, ülkemizde yaklaşık 5000'e yakın havuz var. Acaba biz bu havuzların seviyelerini uzaktan algılayabilir miyiz diye yola çıktık. Sonra başka bir şeyler daha gördük. Burada gördüğümüz şeylerden bir tanesi de ülkemizdeki yaban hayvanlarının bu havuzlardan gerektiğinde su ihtiyacını karşılaması ile ilgili çalışmalar, olaylar olduğunu görünce biz bu yaban hayvanlarının yaşam alanları konusunda acaba bir çalışma yapabilir miyiz? Ne kadarlık bir yaşam alanı var? Biliyorsunuz ülkemizde Anadolu parsı nesli tükenmekte olan bir yaban hayvanı. Bunun yaban hayvanının yaşam alanının düzenlenmesiyle ilgili çalışmalarda yapabileceğimizi gördük. Ve son olarak da acaba biz ağaç, şimdi bize kamuoyunda soruyorlar kaç tane ağaç yandı? Bunun çalışmalarını yapabilir miyiz diye. Burada da yapabildiğimizi gördük. Bir de Big Data, aslında ben Big Data'cı değilim. Data konusunda çok bilmem. Acaba uluslararası bir toplantıda beni konuşmacı olarak çağırdılar. Sizde veri çok, verilerden ne değer üretirsiniz? Bu bir amatör çalışma, lütfen aramızda veri bilimciler var. Bu veri bilimciler beni maruz görsün. Burada yaptığımız şey, yangın söndürme araçlarının her gün yaptıkları toplam kilometre ile yıllar boyunca yaptığı toplam kilometreye baktık. Dikkat ederseniz birinci grafikte tekrarlanan bir eğri var. Bu eğriye baktığımızda ülkemizdeki yakıcı yangınların, ki 2021'de benzeri bir dönemde, hep bu bir aylık dönemde meydana geldiğini gördük. Dolayısıyla biz bu bir aylık dönemde bu verilere dayanarak kuzeydeki yangına hassas olmayan ya da yangın riski olmayan bölgelerden aşağı taraflara, yani yangının olduğu taraflara araç sevk etmeye başladık. Ve bizim bir şey daha, ortalama biz günde 50.000 kilometre yol yaparken 200.000 kilometrelere çıktık. O zaman biz şunu tekrar düşünerek bu veri ışığında araçlarımızın konumlandırma yerlerini bu mevsimde, bu aylarda değiştirme kararı aldık ve 2023 yılından itibaren de bunu yapıyoruz. Sadece bununla çalışmıyoruz. Aynı zamanda dünyanın büyük firmalarından Amazon da bize geldi. O da gönüllülük projesi çerçevesinde sizin için ne yapabiliriz diye başladık. Onlara da sahada çalışan insanlarımızın sağlıklarını, güvenliklerini, yorgunluklarını, performanslarını nasıl anlayabiliriz, nasıl değerlendirebiliriz bir çalışma yaptık. Bu projede 2021 yılında başladı. 2024 yılında projenin prototipi bitti. Bu sene de 3 farklı bölgede 6 ekipte deneyeceğiz. Amaç performansla beraber çalışanlarımızın güvenliğini çok daha yüksek çözünürlükte tespit etmek. Tabii bu çalışmaların bu tamamıyla bir amatör çalışmadır, onu tekrar arz edeyim. Bu amatör çalışmalar sonucunda da yaptığımız masrafın sadece bu alınan önlemlerle birlikte 300 hektardan büyük yangınlarda yaklaşık 8500 hektarlık bir alanı yanmaktan kurtardığımızı ve bunun da değerinin yaklaşık olarak 66 milyon dolar civarında 2024 yılında bize bir katkı yaptı. Sayın Başkan, son olarak bir küçük video göstereceğim. İzin verirseniz 1 dakikalık. Burada açabilir miyiz? Bu dün çekilen bir görüntü. Alt tarafa bakarsanız 96 kilometreden çok küçük bir yangın var ortada. Yazılım kendisi tespit ediyor. Bu kadar. Aynı anda burası Antalya. İHA'mız 5700 metre yukarıdan ve baktığı nokta yaklaşık 180 kilometre. 180 kilometredeki enerjiyi bile çok rahatlıkla tespit ediyoruz. Bu da bize yangınlara çok daha erken sürede müdahale etmemizi ve haberdar olmamızı sağlıyor. Burası Burdur. Yaklaşık mesafeye bakarsanız sağ altta 200 kilometre civarında yangınları çok rahatlıkla görebiliyoruz. Bu da bize tasarruf getiriyor. Ben sabırla dinlediğiniz için teşekkür ediyorum.
Thank you very much, Mr. İlhami. That was an amazing introduction to how technology could be used for forest fire management in many different aspects, as we've all seen. So what I'll do is quickly move on to our next speaker. I didn't want to interrupt Mr. İlhami because he's from our host country and he had so many exciting things to show. But for future speakers, please do keep to time because we are trying to make up time for a late start as well. The next up will be Mr. Kiyeon Ko. Sorry if I'm butchering your name, but you don't have easy names like Nagaraja or Harshadeep. So, Mr. Kiyeon Ko is the ex-Director General of the Fire Aviation Headquarters in South Korea. You heard a bit from him yesterday as well. And he has a BS and MS in Forest Sciences from the Seoul National University in Republic of Korea, and we discovered that we went to the same grad school in Syracuse as well for a little bit, where he, in his version, he did forest resource management in the College of Environmental Science and Forestry of SUNY in the US, and he has been working for about 30 years as a seasoned forest officer in the public forestry areas, and he's served in various positions in the Korea Forest Service, and he's the president of the Korea Forest Fire Society as well. And in his work in the Korea Forest Service from 95 to 2025, he has helped a lot with advancing Korea's fire prevention and response systems, and he's helped address 5 major wildfire systems during his term, and also 3 in events. He also had 3 in field operations, 2 in policy formulation, management, and he has held several other leading positions in these areas. And he's also organized the 6th International Wildland Fire Conference in Pyeongchang in the Republic of Korea in 2015 as well. And he's in Feb 2025, he's taken over as this president of the Korea Forest Fire Society, and he's we're pleased to have him here today. So over to you, Dr. Ko.
Okay, time allowed for me is 15 minutes. Okay, I'll be brief. Okay, good morning, everyone. With the previous presentation, I was surprised to observe that the Turkish wildfire system, response system, resemble Korea's one in more than 90% of its structure and approach. Therefore, I don't have to spend a lot of time to duplicate the system with my presentation. Anyway, thank you for giving me this opportunity to share a Korean case. South Korea faces over 400 wildfires every year, and over 60% of its territory is forested. Some says the climate change has intensified fire behavior. Now wildfire spread faster and burn harder. But in my view, primary cause for the bigger fire also lies in the forest resources management. With the poor and unattended management, it contributes to make the wildfire bigger and worse. Therefore, as a forester, we need to tackle the specific issue of the fuel load, as I shared in the yesterday's presentation. Anyway, at this time, using this time, I will talk about technical issue on addressing the wildfire in Korea. Structure. The Korea's wildfire management system begins with the meteorological data. Data collection is very important. Fire weather forecast feed into the danger index analysis and the risk mapping. We then link the surveillance tool like CCTV, drones, and the helicopter information and the satellite information for early detection. All data flows into a centralized digital command platform, linking forest, fire, disaster, and weather agencies in Korea. When a fire breaks out, field team use the GPS-enabled tablet and the smart command vehicle to coordinate suppression missions. Air and ground units are integrated in real time. Aerial surveillance feed digital cockpit control and remote drone monitoring all support efficient field operation for addressing the wildfire. Prevention is not just a moment. Maybe you can see on the screen the system for the integrated field operation, as I said before. Prevention is not just technical, it is also social. We issued the evacuation alert or alarm via SMS, TV, and various apps, and silence. Local fire watch volunteers play a crucial role in early reporting to the public and to the ground crews. We also implement forest closure during the high-risk season, run public education campaign and install shelters in fire-prone zones and areas. You are familiar with this map, as I shared this map in my previous presentation. In 2025, this year, 20 large wildfires ignited simultaneously in Southeast Korea. Strong wind and steep mountain and low humidity fueled the rapid spread of fire. Our response forces were strategies seen. This exposed the critical gap, not only in aerial capacity, but also on the ground, where access was difficult. Visibility for the firefighters was low, and the terrain made those water hose deployment and crew mobility extremely difficult and challenging. Maybe on this screen, you can see that the various, the one truck developed recently during my tenure in the aviation office. Therefore, as time goes on and the fire scale bigger, Korea is developing the alternative and the newly researched the vehicle or the aerial resources. Maybe if you have time to visit Korea, I can guide you to that the site or the measures. Korea's helicopters faced the serious limitation. When I worked for the aviation office, under my leadership, I operated the 50 helicopter, not the airplane. But I observed that helicopter has limitation. Yeah. Visibility and the restricted flight time and limited water payload and no night operation. Even though large capacity helicopters like the US-made S-64 were mobilized during the mega fire, but they couldn't be deployed to the ground, to the sky effectively, due to the poor weather condition and the poor visibility for the pilot. The experience reinforced the urgent need for great aerial flexibility and alternative tools in harsh fire conditions. In harsh and challenging fire conditions, we need to develop the alternatives. This is the Korean mechanized ground suppression system, developed a couple of decades ago. To overcome the terrain and the visibility challenges, Korea developed this system a long time ago. With this system, mid-sized pump and 13 millimeter hose and 8.5 millimeter hose and play and portable tanks and manifold systems allows the firefighter, ground firefighter, to extinguish the fire deep into the forest area. In some cases, ground crew members can deploy over 2 kilometers of hose, even in area with no access road, in the case of the firefighting. Strategically placed base camp ensure that the steady water supply. This system proves especially valuable for mop-up operation on the ground. If other countries have this system, I want to talk because there is some the difference or the variabilities in ground operation system. As I said in the presentation, the aerial resources like the helicopter cannot fly at night. Therefore, we need to respond from the ground. The ground suppression systems allows the firefighter to extinguish the embers and prevent the reignition of fire source, and it contributes to the containment of the fires before the sun rise. Frequent training ensures the readiness and the rapid deployment after dark during the night. Coming to close, recommendation to close the gap during the suppression mission. I already proposed to the Korean authorities to consider the following: introduce the UAVs for the early detection and nighttime response. I learned from the Turkish presentation. They also operated the unmanned aerial resources. It's good to run, even by the Korean side. And the second one is deploying the fixed-wing aircraft. As Korea doesn't deploy the fixed-wing, we only deployed the helicopters, rotary the helicopters. But with the limitation of the helicopters, we need to consider and we need to deploy the fixed-wing the aircraft like the C-130. I think this the airplane utilized by some countries, including the USA. Yeah. The airplane contribute to the to suppress the large scale the wildfire, and it can fly daytime and nighttime. Therefore, we can use and we can mobilize the strategically for addressing the big fire. Yeah. And another one is developing drone swarm equipped with delivering both fire retardant, aerosol, or waters for precision suppression missions. And the last one is investing in the real-time digital command and coordination network. Yeah, conclusion. Some photos covers I will talk. Technology must support the full wildfire cycle from prevention to suppression to recovery. In Korea, innovation in addressing the wildfire is understood not just as a new equipment, but as a reorganization of available resources. Wildfire suppression is ultimately about delivering water resources effectively and efficiently to the ground. To do this, we must rethink conventional method. For instance, instead of relying on the distant located dams, water dam, Korea is testing and deploying the mobile water tank placed under the helicopters to shorten the delivery time. These tanks are rapidly filled using the concrete mixer truck. Maybe you can understand with the photos. I put that pictures in my slide. And this mixer truck with the high discharge capacity, therefore, it was efficient to supply the water to the helicopters eventually. Korea also exploring the way how to store the seasonal rainfalls. As I said, the Korea is not the water scarce country, but we have the issue to manage the water resources. Yeah. Spring season is very dry, therefore we need to develop the way to store the water rainfalls inside the forest area. There is a way to lessen the risk of the fire happening. And many scientists in Korea is suggesting that way. Therefore, we need to think, we need to develop the innovative way to address the fire on the ground. That is my suggestion. And I always seek to find the innovative way, because innovation has no limit in wildfire management. We must continue to find new ways to relocate, repurpose, and optimize resources to meet the growing challenges of faster and hotter and long-term wildfire seasons. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ko. Thank you, Mr. Ko. That was great to hear. While we have you both on stage, even though we are horribly over time, I wanted to ask you one quick question each. And both, it's the same issue. Like you said at the end, innovation has no limit. So there'll be lots of innovation all the time going ahead. So looking ahead, what do both of you see as the big innovations that you think will be coming down to help forest fire management beyond what you've already seen? Because all of us have been privileged that we probably all started when we had things like punch cards and PCs and other things coming in to see all the benefits of new technology. But today's technology will seem like punch cards a few years from now. So it'll be useful to get your thoughts on what you see going ahead into the future. So maybe we'll start with you, Mr.
Okay. Teşekkür ediyorum. Ülkemizde özellikle yangınların söndürülmesine farklı metotlara doğru bir çalışma yapıyoruz. Bunlar henüz düşünce aşamasındaki çalışmalar. Bir tanesi 2018 yılında İsveç'teki yangından sonra bombalarla yangın söndürebildi. Bizde de Roketsan diye bir kuruluşumuz var. Bu özellikle yangın bombaları konusunda Gazi Üniversitesi ile birlikte işbirliği yapıyoruz. Birinci yapacağımız şu anda üzerine çalıştığımız proje bu. Bunları küçük ve büyük yangınlar ya da mega yangınlar ya da önümüzdeki günlerde bahsedeceğimiz giga yangınlarda, bu yangınlarda çaresiz kaldığımız durumlarda bu yangın bombalarıyla bunlarla ilgili ne çalışma yapabiliriz? Bunu yapıyoruz. İkincisi, dünyanın birçok ülkesinde henüz araştırma halinde olan radyo frekansla yangınları söndürme, ki bunlar laboratuvar ortamlarından artık açık ortamlara doğru çıktılar. Belki çok yenilikçi projelerden bir tanesi bu olacak. Aramızda misafirlerimiz var. Bu konuda bize bilgi verecekler. Üçüncüsü, Türkiye'de Dünya Bor Maden Rezervi'nin %70'i ülkemizde. Bor madenlerinin birçok faydası olduğu gibi 5000'e yakın faydası var. Bunların atıklarından yangın söndürme malzemesi olarak kullanabilir miyiz diye düşünüyoruz. Çünkü buradaki amaç su yangına atıldığı zaman ağaçların üzerinden aşağı iniyor. Oysa bor madeninin atıkları çevreye bir zararı yok. Direkt olarak ağaca veya dallarına yapıştığı için oksijenle temasını kesiyor. Bu konuda çalışma yapıyoruz. Dördüncü bir çalışmamız kamuoyuna kendimizi anlatma noktasında. Bu noktada insanın kendisini anlatması zor olduğu gibi kurumların da kendisini anlatması zor. Ülkemizin sivil toplum kuruluşlarıyla, büyük firmalarıyla, özellikle televizyonlarda, prime time'da bizi onlar anlatıyorlar. Bu konuda profesyonel ekiplerle sosyal medya ve televizyon kullanımı konusunda çalışma yapıyoruz. Teşekkür ediyorum.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lam. That was excellent. I think lots of new technologies in the offing, so we should all keep our eyes peeled and ears tuned to see what comes up in the next few years. Over to you, Mr. Cook.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to add some more. In addressing the wildfire, I think the early detection is a critical and a very important tool and method to manage the wildfire under control. Therefore, we need to develop the innovative way always. And there is solution for that early detection. After retiring from the Korea Forest Service, I consider and I find the way to utilize the very capable, very enabled the surveillance machine, like the middle altitude surveillance tool or aerial resources. I found it. But that surveillance and the reconnaissance tools used by the military in Korea, no, not in Korea, but in other countries. Therefore, I consider and I propose that alternative to the Korean authority to introduce that surveillance system into the civil area and the firefighting area in terms of the early detection. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Ko. I think we could listen to both of you for the rest of the day, but unfortunately all good things must come to an end, and we'll move on to the private sector part of this discussion. So thank you very much again for coming in. I wish I was around tomorrow to go see the command center that you have over here. Unfortunately, I'll be on a plane, I think, by then, but I hope to see lots of photos from my colleagues so that we can go in and have a look at the kind of technologies that are coming in. So next up, we'll call them one by one as they're speaking, then they can take their seats here and we'll try to fit them all in. We have our first speaker from the private sector will be Konstantin Pieper, and he's from Ororatech, and he is a deputy head of sales and one of the first employees there, and he's seen it grow from a small startup to over 150 employees. And he, in his current role, leads the expansion of the global commercial operations and customer success initiatives, and has helped forge partnerships with emergency services, environmental agencies globally. And he'll be talking a little bit about how space-based technologies and AI are transforming a lot of the fire management worldwide. So over to you, Konstantin.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone. So I'll talk a bit about our thermal satellite network for better protection. So specifically also how that could be utilized here in Turkey for better wildfire defense. Let me start by giving you a bit of an overview about where Ororatech is currently active. We started launching our platform in 2019. And since then, we scaled quite a bit globally. Currently, we have over 500 users in 25 countries. You see that marked there on the map, actively monitoring around 450 million hectares. We currently utilize 27 satellite sources. It says 27 plus because we already launched this year 8 additional ones. They will be in the platform in an automated manner in a couple of months. And we currently have around 130 employees on 5 continents. The wildfire management platform that we've developed tries to address the whole fire management cycle, starting with before the fire, during, and after. Before the fire, that means improving the data you have available for risk assessment. So having weather information in there, fire danger indices, forecast, but also using spread modeling for kind of risk purposes. The during phase is what we focused on mostly in our development as of now. This includes the fire detection component, where we observe 24/7 every space globally by the utilization of satellites, send out notifications automatically to the areas of interest of the users by WhatsApp, SMS, email, whatever is preferred. And then for the near real-time monitoring component, we have a variety of algorithms that merge all of the single hotspots from satellites to give you an accurate indication how the fires are actually developing over time, so that you can assess also clearly what best actions to take to mitigate them. One part is the propagation modeling, and another part is having an incident overview of the areas of interest with clear indication which fires are the fastest growing ones, which have the closest proximity to your assets, and other factors there. And then after the fire, that's the post-fire analysis, so having an automated burned area and severity calculation. If I go into a bit more detail here, so for the detection component, as stated before, these satellites that we're currently using, those are satellites in a low Earth orbit and geostationary satellites. Satellites in a low Earth orbit are key for the initial detection because they detect fires on average from a size of 10 by 10 meters. And the geostationary satellites are key for the monitoring of bigger fires with updates around every 10 minutes. Next to that, we put a lot of work into giving an indication of the fire confidence and classification that the detected hotspot is actually a fire by filtering out other heat sources like industry sites, gas flares, solar panels, whatever is picked up as well. And due to direct downlink technologies, we are constantly improving also the latency, so the notification time after the satellite passed over the specific area. For the during part, I mentioned already this clustering logic. So you see that there on the screenshot on the right, you see a lot of circles. Each circle is a hotspot detected, and this outline is what we call a cluster, so the combination of all of the single hotspots, and this helps really for the monitoring purposes. Predictions, you can do up to 24 hours just with one click, and in a couple of seconds you have a first indication how the fire might spread dependent on weather topography, wind and fuel factors, and a lot of the inputs there can be of course customized. I wanted to show with you one specific example since we've been working actively with Greece now, and there was one severe fire last year near Athens. You see here the start of the event was at 3:02. First satellite activity picked up was 3 minutes later by NOAA 21. You see then based on that the spread modeling that we did for that fire, and then you see afterwards how the fire spread and all of the suppression efforts that were taken there to combat that. Coming to the post-fire impact analysis, you see here on the screenshot burn severity mapping, so automatically comparing high-resolution imagery before and after the fire to give you an indication what actually burned with the different severity levels, impact on vegetation, and so on. And next to that, the database can be, of course, also used for more long-term statistics. As mentioned, we started in 2019, so we're building up more and more global data archive of fires where you can also, just go back in time, see also where exactly the fires originated. If the causes are also inputted into the systems, then this gives you also just way better statistics globally. Just here a brief input about how this data that you saw on the platform what are the input factors basically. So there are inputs from users, being specific fuel layers, for example. Then there's if there's aircraft data available, this can be displayed in the system. Trackers, we heard that there's in a lot of talks before. If that is relevant, it can be integrated as well as drone and camera data. But important is also to highlight, we integrate all of that in the platform, but everything you see in the platform are also specific data products that can be integrated into existing tools. So depending on what is more suited, this can be a customized solution. To give you a short outlook, what is ahead. So next to these data sources we started with, we are building and launching more and more of our own satellites. So we launched as of now, in the beginning, Forest 1, 2, and 3. Those were mostly technology demonstration missions to highlight the capabilities of the infrared imager, showcasing that this is outperforming from what is currently available. The imager has a resolution of 200 meters per pixel. This translates to a fire size of 4 by 4 meters, and the detection latency is within minutes and not what you see currently on an average in NASA firms or in other solutions around 1 hour. This year, beginning of this year, we launched 8 satellites. So that's called here WFS Pro Service Level 1. Said they are still in the commissioning phase, but will be operationally rolled out from next month on for some key customer regions. And they are starting to fill the gaps that we identified globally in the coverage. And in the coming years, we are scaling this to a constellation of around 80 satellites with the goal of having around 48 scans per day globally. So with that, let me close. Fire doesn't wait, neither do we. That's why we're continuously partnering with more and more organizations in the public sector, but also in the private, some initiatives. You will hear about some of them later also today. And yeah, we have a booth outside, so if you want to have more of a deep dive into the platform, feel free to stop by. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Konstantin, for that. As you said, fire doesn't wait, and neither do we, because we have to keep moving on. So next up, we have Sean Triplett, who is from the Earth Fire Alliance. Another set of people who are building and managing their own satellites called FireSat, and you'll hear some exciting new developments from their space as well. He's a director, data integration and operations program office, and at the Earth Fire Alliance, he's working on making sure that FireSat imagery and analytical products reach different global users in as secure, reliable, and rapid way as possible. And he's been instrumental with setting up these kind of partnerships with the users, and his motto is support the mission, not the career. Hopefully he'll do both. And he joined Earth Fire Alliance this year after 20 years at the US Department of Agriculture, Forest Service, and also the Bureau of Land Management, where he was a frontline leader in fire and aviation management. And he's been working all through on cutting-edge technologies, data solutions, and also as part of the Alaska Fire Service and National Interagency Fire Center. And his expertise is on wildfire operations, aviation support, resource tracking, remote sensing, and emerging technologies. And he's received many GIS awards from ESRI, Star Award from Bureau of Land Management, and has a bachelor's degree in history and geography from Frostburg State University. So over to you, Sean.
Good morning. Sean Triplett with the Earth Fire Alliance. I'm going to talk to you a little bit this morning about our FireSat constellation, which is a partnership that we have also with Ororatech. So don't look at this as competitive platforms, look at this as complementary platforms. So the Earth Fire Alliance is a global nonprofit. We were established just a little over a year ago with the charge of providing fire data equitably across the globe. The Earth Fire Alliance originated from some studies that I'll talk about here in a little bit from the Environmental Defense Fund, Google.org, the Moore Foundation, and others, looking at what was the data gaps that we had out there in fire management across the globe. The FireSat program is the flagship program of the Earth Fire Alliance, and it was purposely built to detect and characterize wildfires at a global scale, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So here's kind of our timeline on how we came about. As I mentioned, Earth Fire Alliance is only a year old, but the initial study for the development of Earth Fire Alliance started several years ago. And like they said, they were looking across the globe, and they determined at that point that there was the gap analysis determined that there was a lack of persistence, high-resolution monitoring and detection of wildfires across the globe. What I found extremely interesting about this, I spent 16 years with the Forest Service at the National Interagency Fire Center in Boise, was in 2018, I was tasked with a group of other individuals between our research and development, operations, and aviation units to do the exact same thing. And we came up with the exact same answer. We lacked persistent, real-time ability to detect and monitor fires. And we looked at it across the gamut of fires at the Forest Service. We looked at prescribed fire, we looked at fuels management, and we looked at suppression operations. So here you had the government and basically the private sector doing own separate gap analysis, but coming to the same conclusion. So this year, in 2023, FireSat, the technical design was come up with, and really it focused on building a purpose-built detection, monitoring, and characterization sensor specifically designed for fire. If you think about the satellites we have up there now, Sentinel, MODIS, VIIRS, the weather geostationary satellites, and others, they're all environmental monitoring satellites that have a thermal band on it, but it's not very tuned for fire characterization and being able to determine between different types of fires. So FireSat was built, got together a group of scientists, and I'll talk a little bit about the channels that we have and why we chose those channels. After that initial design, I'm here to represent also Muon Space, who is our satellite builder and flyer. Within 7 months, the design was built, the engineering was complete, the scanner was built, it was put on a rocket and launched. So I challenge NASA to do something like that. So wildfire, we really would like to be a game changer in the way that we distribute data across the globe. I know a lot of people look at key performance indexes as a positive outcome when you go and provide data, especially on a global scale. I've warned individuals that will probably end up having maybe not necessarily a positive outcome, because with our satellites and partnerships with others, we're going to learn that there's a lot more fire on the landscape than we were ever aware of. And we hope to be able to provide that data to the decision makers on the ground, the communities on the ground, so they can tell their story better to decision makers and others as they go and try to address integrated fire management and wildfire problems in their communities. So I talked a little bit about FireSat, and I know we're short on time, so I'll just kind of breeze through these. And I'm also outside of the booth if you wanted to get into some of the specific details. But very similar to Ororatech, we want to provide global coverage. Right now, we have our prototype satellite up, so very similar to the Forest constellation at Ororatech. This is a kind of a fail and fail fast environment. We are collecting imagery and it's looking very well. My responsibility is taking the imagery off the satellite and providing it to individuals so then they can put it into their systems and their science decision support systems to see how it works. We have 6 channels visible through long wave infrared. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Right now at Nader, it's a 50-meter pixel with a detection of about 5 meters by 5 meters, so think about it like a backyard swimming pool. We will be covering the globe every 20 minutes at the mid-latitudes when we get to full operational, so that's like where we are right now in those fire-prone belts across the northern and southern hemispheres. As I mentioned earlier, we just recently launched and we are now receiving imagery off our satellite, so we're actually ahead of schedule on our prototype. And we'll be moving towards initial operating capacity. So this time next year, we'll have 3 satellites up flying in a polar orbit, spaced about a 20 to 30 minute revisit. So if you think about as the Earth rotates underneath, the satellites will come over 30 minutes later, 30 minutes later. After initial operation capacity, we'll go to full operational capacity. So in 2030, we'll have 50 satellites up. And again, our objective is to provide the data across the globe equitably to all of our partners and communities out there. I mentioned earlier a little bit about the channels that we chose. We specifically chose 2 separate bands within the midwave, and the purpose behind that was to be able to look for very cool fires and also very hot fires. If you look at the environmental satellites that we have up there now, such as even GOES or VIIRS, they saturate and overpredict or bloom very quickly when a fire gets hot. We've seen this behavior quite a bit on the fires in the western United States and currently in Canada. On those cooler fires, so you're thinking about maybe some of the shrubs and grass fires as they kind of move through, there's very little residual heat, but you can still see something happening there. And the other part of that is being able to detect fires that are burning under canopies. So that canopy is a good blocker of the photons and radiation trying to come off the fire. So a lot of the sensors out there miss those fires. But there still is energy getting through. So the satellite will see that and interpret that as a cool fire. So we will still be able to see under there. Now, if the fire is very hot under that, that'll take some work with folks on the ground to be able to do that. But we're really looking to take advantage of that split channel system there. And that also allows us to do a little bit more high accurate calibration of FRP or fire radiative power. We've partnered with NASA and the NASA Firms Group, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and other scientists. So as our data becomes available, we're going to let them start getting into the pixel math and be nerds and come out and help us really look at the FRP and see how well that's characterizing the fire. And that's really important when you think about fuel consumption and radiant heat. How long is that heat actually persistent on the soil? That's when you start to get your changes in characterization of soil. You have hydrophobic soils. That's when you're starting to have your runoff. You denude the soil to where it can't support any vegetation recovery, and you have to take additional steps to be able to plant there. So we really want to get some more science behind that with our data so we can understand, not necessarily in a real time, but more in for characterization of that. The other side of that is I was a BurnBot prescribed fire person, and a lot of times when you get these prescriptions of prescribed fire, they tell you to do a certain amount of consumption of the vegetation, and that's all kind of a wag when you're out there. They also tell you to get certain size of scorch marks on trees because that helps habitat. So what we're hoping to do is be able to do prescribed fire, practitioners on the ground, observe and characterize the fire with the satellite, and then start building that database of what type of intensity or FRP that you want to measure off a prescribed fire to meet the certain ecosystem conditions that you want to get as you're trying to change your landscape. When we get to full operational capacity, we'll really be focusing on our first responders, getting that detection and monitoring data out there. This is really what we want to get to, looking at starting to calibrate and characterize our fire spread models. That was the major driver when I mentioned the studies earlier. All the fire behavior models, besides a couple certain areas where we've been able to put aircraft overhead or cameras out there, we don't have a good comprehension of how well our models, either on the fuels, the weather, or just the physics in the model characterize fire spread. We have a lot, we're still using 1972 Rothermolf as the base foundation for a lot of our models. We hope to be able to provide greater information to our scientists to allow them to enhance those models. So I'll be talking a little bit later today, and like I said, I'm out there. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much, Sean. That was excellent, and it's amazing to see from our two presenters what we have to look forward to in terms of 4 meter by 4 meter fires, revisit every 20 minutes and things like that, looking at data globally from space, right? So there's a lot in the future coming in. Next up, let's see if our virtual presenter is connected. Sam Goldman, are you connected? Sam Goldman from Skyward. Because if not, I'll skip that intro and go to the next one. He's not connected? Is it? Okay, he's there. Sorry. Good. Okay, great. So Sam is an accomplished entrepreneur and leader on the climate technology activities. And he is the CEO of Skyward, which is a company focused on wildlife prevention. And he has a strong background in business development and strategy, and he has scaled several companies and developed all kinds of impactful business models. And he's been co-founder and president of D.Light, and also where it's been focused on providing solar energy solutions to underserved populations globally. And I think I was in a lot of those last week in northern Nigeria. He's also been recognized as a young global leader by the World Economic Forum, and he's had many other awards, 2014 Charles Bronfman Prize. He's also an Ashoka Fellow, and also he's been recognized by Forbes as being one of the world's top 30 social entrepreneurs in 2011. And he has extensive experience working with many different teams on these kinds of aspects. He has an MBA from Stanford, MSc in Biology and Environmental Studies from University of Victoria, Canada. And he's also been in the Environmental Action Peace Corps as a volunteer in Benin as well from 2001 to 2005. So great to have you here, Sam, and thank you for joining us virtually. Hopefully we won't see any disruptive tech in action. So please take it away. Over to you, Sam.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. I hope everyone can hear me. I'm going to share my screen, and let's hope that this works. Having some trouble just sharing my screen. Give me 1 second. Sorry, folks. I may need to leave the meeting and rejoin.
Oh. Okay, no, we see your screen now.
Okay, you see my screen?
Yeah,
okay,
perfect.
Awesome. Sorry about the delay there. Thank you so much, everyone, for the warm welcome. As noted, I'm here on behalf of Skyward Wildfire Technologies. We are a British Columbia, Canada-based company, so it is the middle of the night here for me, so please bear with me if I'm a little bit less coherent than usual. It's far past my usual bedtime. But being based in British Columbia, wildfire is something that directly impacts our everyday lives. And there are actually several fires that are currently threatening our local communities here in Vancouver and the lower mainland area of British Columbia at this very moment. And some of these wildfires were ignited by lightning, and that's exactly what Skyward aims to address. Skyward is the world's first lightning prevention company. We aim to prevent lightning on demand, to prevent the ignition of catastrophic wildfires. And I'll provide a bit more context and detail on how we do this, but I want to quickly start off with addressing why this is critical, specifically to prevent lightning from starting fires in particular. Now, it's no secret that wildfires are one of the most critical threats facing communities and ecosystems around the world, but this has been particularly true in the Canadian context over the last several years. 2023 was one of the worst wildfire seasons ever recorded, with Canada actually losing about 5% of total forests and witnessing almost 30 megafires. And the wildfires in Canada alone represented about 3 times more CO2 emissions than the entire Canadian economy combined. This enormous scale makes a reduction in Canadian wildfires actually the lowest cost option globally to achieve gigaton scale CO2 reductions. Now, if we zoom out a little bit to more of a global level, we've seen, of course, devastating megafires in all corners of the globe, from North America to Australia to Spain and to Turkey. And these fires have a massive cost. And that's only going to get worse as global temperatures rise, particularly in heavily forested areas such as Canada's boreal forests. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with all of this background, but what you might not be familiar with is that about 60% or 59% of wildfires in the US and Canada are ignited by lightning, and that over 90% of Canada's burned area is actually from lightning-ignited fires. And this is a trend we only expect to see increase, with global warming more than doubling the amount of lightning in northern regions. And in fact, if we look at 2024, just 4 days with lightning resulted in 30% of total burned area in Canada. Imagine what we could have done if we could have just prevented the lightning on those 4 days. And this is where Skyward comes in. Skyward stops lightning on demand. Now, I won't get too into the science, and I'm not going to pretend to be an atmospheric scientist, but essentially lightning is caused by charge buildup in clouds. Cloud-to-ground lightning strikes happen when the electric field surpasses a threshold and induces a charge in the ground. Now, what this means is that by managing the electric field in the storm system through targeted deployment of lightning suppression materials into a storm cell, we're able to keep the electric field below the threshold that's required for cloud-to-ground lightning to occur. This is done via specific, specially equipped aircraft deployed to seed the storm cells in a manner that's very similar to cloud seeding for precipitation. Now, in the background of all of this, we have, and powering the operational capability of our aircraft and lightning suppression material deployment, Skyward leverages proprietary AI lightning forecasting models to predict the area and the intensity of lightning for our aircraft pre-positioning. Once an aircraft has been deployed, we gather a range of data via proprietary sensors to determine the best area of a specific storm to treat and for real-time monitoring, reporting, and verification of treatment efficacy. Now, Skyward is a new company. We were just founded in 2024. However, we have already proven the capability to stop lightning. Last summer, we partnered with Alberta Wildfire, one of the leaders in this space, to prove that suppression was possible using both manned aircraft and drones. And this actually marked the world's first commercial lightning suppression flight. Through a series of test flights, we actually saw a 100% success rate in active lightning storms, and a 60 to 100% reduction in lightning versus control cells via our statistical modeling. Now, looking forward, this summer, we are partnering with both Alberta and British Columbia wildfire services here in Canada to provide landscape-level solutions with more advanced aircraft, proprietary sensors, and our world-leading forecasting tools. And I'll just end on this note. Stopping less than 1% of lightning can prevent devastating fires, moving the needle in the fight against climate change and also protecting life and lands. We just need to stop 1%. Thanks everyone for welcoming me and for the opportunity, and please don't hesitate to reach out if you want to learn more about Skyward and about our results in summer 2025.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sam, for that, and also for staying up at midnight. If you can hang on for a few more minutes, it'll be great if you can be part of the panel afterwards, very brief panel that we'll have afterwards as well. Now I'm sure we've heard everything, right? we can now stop lightning. So this is excellent to see where technology has gone in terms of giving everybody superpowers, in terms of trying to see with kind of a proper deployment of technology how you can reduce the risk of one of the big ignition factors of fires. One of the best visualizations I've seen in my life is from NASA a few months back. The head of the NASA visualization studio showed us this amazing thing on their hyperwall, which is with their OCO2 observatory and a few other data sets. They were showing a global animation of 1 year's worth of CO2 as seen from space, right? Normally you don't see CO2, but the thing is with model outputs, they made it so that you could see a whole year's worth of CO2, so you could see all the forests of the world in the Congo and in the Amazon and in Indonesia breathing every day. You could see in Canada, 2023, which was when they did that thing, was full of wildfires at that time, and you could see all of these wildfires burning all through, and it's amazing to see the scale at which these happen. And that's where I think it's what Dr. Ko also said earlier, you could have many at the same time, and that's the kind of risk in terms of how do you manage this. So if you can get a handle on reducing one of the drivers of wildfires, that seems like an excellent new way to think about the use of technology. Next up, I think all of us, so far we've seen the focus on the skywards in some ways, looking at Earth observation. Next we'll go more bottom up to try and see what can we do on the ground. So we have Carsten Brinkschulte'nin, who is from Dryad Network, and he's a telecom tech veteran and a serial entrepreneur, and the CEO and co-founder of the Dryad Networks. And they are a large-scale IoT network, Internet of Things network, for the ultra-early detection of wildfires. They have a booth outside as well, and they'll tell you how they detect this using these systems. And he has over 20 years in mobile network infrastructure, and he's had many successful companies in the past, Core Network Dynamics, acquired by Twilio, Movir2 acquired by BlackBerry, and Synchronita acquired by the DAT group. So over to you, Carsten. Let's see what Dryad Networks is doing on forest fires.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Carsten Brinkschulte, co-founder and CEO of Dryad, and we're about ultra-early detection of wildfire. I think we're all talking about early detection, and we put the ultra in front because that's what we want to do. We want to detect fires as early as the smoldering phase. Now, we've heard a lot about satellites and cameras and drones, and we can argue about the detection time, but the key thing really is we have to start ticking the clock from ignition. So the minute I throw a cigarette on the floor, for human-induced fires at least, that's when we actually have to start measuring the time from ignition. And we believe, and we can have proven, that we can detect fires with our technological approach within minutes from ignition. And that is, we believe, a key differentiator, because in the end, the detection time from ignition determines the reaction time, the time when the firefighters get to the scene and actually can do something about it. Every minute counts. That's what you hear from firefighters all over the place. Now, we minimize those minutes with a different technological approach. You know, we believe satellites are great. They're doing an excellent job, and our colleagues from Ororatech and Earth Fire Alliance and Muon Space are doing a fantastic job about that. Cameras, as we've heard in Turkey, are doing a wonderful job too. Now, we want to complement that with a new approach, and that is a ground-based sensor. So what we've developed since 2020 is a solar-powered, low-cost, high-volume gas sensor. Here's one of those, quite small, size of a palm. We attach them to a tree with a wooden nail, can stay there for 10 to 15 years. It's solar powered, has no lithium-ion battery, so it's not going to start a fire. It can last for a long time. It works through the night with supercapacitors, where we store the energy that we capture during the day. And it works under the tree canopy in the shade, just before you ask that question. And the key thing is, how do we detect it? It's a gas sensor. Now think about it like an electronic nose. It can smell a fire, right? If you're standing in the forest and somebody's lighting a barbecue, you will smell it. And so does our sensor, very early on, within minutes from ignition. Every sensor is waterproof. It can protect the size of a hectare or 5 hectares maximum, depending on the detection time that you want to target. And it's really low cost. So we're offering it for less than $100, a sensor that can protect a large area for 10 to 15 years. That's our approach. We call it ultra-early detection. Now, this works well. We've proven it. We have about 20,000 sensors shipped. This is not a prototype. This is a fully industrialized scaling solution in 50 installations across the world, in Greece, Spain, Portugal, as far as Indonesia and Thailand, as well as the US and Canada. So we're really going big scale with this. But the key thing here really is, how do you get the data out of the forest? It's great to detect it very early, and we do that extremely well, better than anybody else, we believe. But what's the way to get the data out of the forest? In most forests, there is no telecommunications network, right? So how does this sensor cry for help? Well, it has a radio network built in, and we are building the Internet of Trees. We're building slightly larger devices that you put every 2 kilometers in the forest, and it builds a solar-powered mesh network, the Internet of Trees. It's an IoT network, not for your smartphones, but just for IoT sensors, like our fire sensors and in the future other sensors. So we're building large-scale, low-cost, terrestrial IoT networks, specifically for getting data out of the forest. And that can be for fire, but it can also be for environmental monitoring and any other IoT application that you can think of that you want to put into the forest. We're building the Internet of Trees. That is the vision, and that's why we call it Dryad networks. Now, we have been working on this quite a while. We have 20,000 sensors shipped so far, fully industrialized, actually manufactured in Germany, not in China. Not everything is made in China. Some things still come out of Europe, and Germany in this case, where we are located. And we're selling the solution to private forestry, timber, the pulp and paper industry that want to protect their asset. We have lots of customers in municipalities, in particular deployments in high-risk, high-value areas. The wildland-urban interface in the area where humanity intersects with nature, power line, train lines, railroads, roads. That's where 85% of the human-induced fires are starting. And remember, that's what we want to focus on. We want to eliminate human-induced fires, and they're causing a lot of threat and a lot of immediate danger to population and infrastructure, because they typically happen where people are. We also offer our solution to utilities, power lines, railroads, and solar farms, which need to protect their infrastructure from causing fires, but also the infrastructure from incoming fires. So these are our customer groups, and we have live deployments in each of those customer segments. But we don't want to stop there. So we have a product that's fully industrialized, that's scaling, and this year we're intending to ship about 100,000 sensors to deploy across the world. In particular in Asia, we're seeing very large deployments of the SilverNet solution, but we want to go beyond that. So our roadmap is quite ambitious, and we're working on a portfolio of applications that go into the Internet of Trees. Now that we have a network in the forest, how about if we detect chainsaw, illegal logging? How about if we detect gunshots for illegal poaching? How about if we measure the fuel moisture rather than estimate it with sensors under the tree canopy with a much higher accuracy than satellites or weather-based models can actually do, by measuring what's happening under the tree canopy on the ground? Soil moisture sensors, dendrometers for tree growth, subflow sensors to measure the water that's going up a tree stem. All of that is possible once you have ground-based sensors. And we are building the infrastructure as well as a portfolio of sensors for those ground-based Internet of Trees. Now, our big vision is what we got funded by the European Union, and we called that Florian. Now we're calling it SilverGuard. And SilverGuard is a system Now, Florian, as we used to call it when we created these lights a while ago, now it's called SilverGuard. SilverNet protects the forest and SilverGuard protects it. With Florian or SilverGuard, we're building an autonomous drone system that is activated when one of our sensors detects an event. The drone is released from a solar-powered hangar and flies to the location reported by the sensor to deliver instantaneous infrared overhead video right from the location. And in the second phase, we also want to work on fire suppression, not just detect and provide best situational awareness, but also act on the fire. So we want to complete the vision of the XPRIZE wildfire, where we are one of the ground-based competitors, to detect and extinguish a fire within 10 minutes from ignition. Because once we would do that, we could get rid of all human-induced fires. And that's the vision that we have with Dryad, which we want to realize. We've got a big team for a startup. We're 48 employees now. We're based in Germany, Berlin. We've got a scaling management team. We're backed by a number of financial institutions and venture capital. And we're scaling now to bring the company to a global level as a next step. So thank you very much. That would be the overview of Dryad Networks, building the Internet of Trees. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carsten. I think that gives us another preview of this whole new space of sensors on the ground that or on trees that we are looking at. So there'll be many which are there, many more which we'll be seeing, not only to look at sniffing out VOC or hearing things in terms of acoustic sensors or other types of things, to look at temperature changes or to look at changes in many other things, to also have back-end systems for AI to be able to process all this information, perhaps in combination with these top-down systems. But all of these that we saw so far belong to that first group of technologies that I mentioned, which is on the data value chain aspects, right? What we'll see from the next two presenters, hopefully if they're connected virtually, are the second big group, which is to look at the hardware part of these systems. And we will start with Joe Lerdal. Hopefully he's connected from Kodama Systems, who will take us into the whole new wild world of robots and firefighting, right? So he's just checking to make sure he's connected. Yeah, okay, great. Okay, so he's a head of operations at Kodama Systems, Joe Lerdal, and that's a startup developing robotic systems for wildfire management and timber harvesting, and he leads on an operational team focused on machine deployments and field engineering, ensuring that a lot of these complex forest technologies function in demanding environments of the real world. And he bridges currently field operations and product development to look at iterative demand and supply in terms of design and performance. And he plays a key role in customer management and leading demos and so on. So he has served for 3 years as a professional firefighter with the US Forest Service earlier, where he got a lot of first-hand experience with the operational challenges of wildfire response, and rose to the position of squad leader there. So over to you, Joe, and hope you're connected and hope we can hear you well. This is Joe Lerdal from Kodama Systems. Yep.
And I'm thrilled to be presenting in Ankara, albeit virtually. I'm looking forward to telling you a little bit about who we are as a company and what we do. We're a startup based in California, and it's no accident that we're based in one of the epicenters of the global wildfire crisis. Our goal is to increase the pace and scale of forest management through the deployment of novel technologies. The technology that we're specifically focused on deploying is machine automation and teleoperation. So with that in mind, you could describe us as a robotics company. My background is actually in forestry and wildland firefighting, but my colleagues' backgrounds are from places like Amazon Robotics or MIT. This back and forth between folks who are really into robotics and really into forestry makes it a pretty fun place to work, and also a pretty unique way of approaching some of these challenges. And there's no dearth of challenges facing the forest management space in this century. We see how things like wildfire and land use change are jeopardizing the existence of forested landscapes when we need them the most. We understand that a forest can store carbon, but in order to make sure that these forests continue to exist through some of these headwinds, we need to treat these landscapes. In the US, we see how our government has put forward a treatment goal, and we struggle to meet it. And when you peel back the curtain, the reason why it's hard to meet these treatment goals is because forest treatment is expensive. Operationally, it requires a lot of people, and it requires a lot of money. So we are trying to come in and assist in helping meet those goals. So I want to speak a little bit to the mega fire crisis in the Western US, given that it's something that our company deals with. We see how a combination of historic management practices and extreme weather events make a fire that's extremely difficult to suppress. And that fire that's difficult to suppress often burns very hot and very intensely, which leaves behind a very large total burned area and very severe fire effects. What does that look like? It looks like landscapes that look like a bomb has gone through. You'll see there's a photo on one of these slides. Unfortunately, this is our reality in California and a lot of places in the Western US. And what's really concerning is that our traditional reforestation and burned area recovery tactics that land managers might use as part of their toolkit are insufficient in approaching a problem of this scale. So when we think about the challenges presented by the modern megafire, we can rely on traditional forestry practices, which allow us to meet a variety of management objectives, such as resiliency, wood production, recreation, or forest restoration. All of these things are attractive alternatives to watching forests burn or go by the wayside. And some of the tools I put on this slide, right? You have a harvesting sector that allows us to harvest dead trees or perform thinning work. You have a reforestation sector that allows for planting. Foresters go out in the woods and they feed the data that informs growth models, and they make sure implementation stays. There's thinning practitioners that are out in the woods getting their hands dirty. All of these things have a couple things in common, and that is that they're labor intensive and that they cost money. So Kodama is focused on relieving some of the costs and challenges that are associated with the forest harvesting sector in the US. It's not a coincidence that we have decided to focus our business on one of the most labor-intensive and expensive sectors in the forest manager's toolkit. Modern forest management employs large crews of men and women and significant amounts of heavy machinery to make sure implementation gets done on the ground. And one thing that I kind of want to note here is that the men and women that I'm talking about are called loggers in the US, and this word often conjures up images of lumberjacks cutting large swaths of forests. That's not the case. The contemporary logger in the US is a highly professional individual who follows best management practices and works hand in hand with land managers to ensure stewardship on the land. And that workforce is critical to the post-fire recovery efforts and the resiliency efforts that I've described on previous slides. And really importantly, this workforce is being called upon at a time when it's aging out. 71% of American loggers are over 50. 97% of respondents on a recent survey communicated that finding new employees is almost impossible. And these headwinds are really, frankly, kind of understandable when you go out into the woods. I've spent a lot of time on logging sites, understanding our product and our users, and you see that 3-hour round-trip commutes and putting in 16 hours of work 6 days a week makes life really hard on folks. And adding to that, the job is dangerous. There's a lot of peril, whether it's from environmental elements or the hazards associated with falling trees and heavy machinery. The photo on the far right on this slide was taken on one of our project sites. The loggers are going on a 3.5-hour commute to this site, and they're critical to the reforestation efforts on the Park Fire. That's where this photo is taken. the fact of the matter is, it's very hard to make sure that these folks are going to stay in the woods and be able to do the work they need to do with the challenges that we're facing. So how does Kodama intervene in the harvesting sector? Well, we employ a technology suite of machines that leverages a combination of low Earth orbit satellite internet, remote control, and autonomy to allow heavy machines to be operated from anywhere in the world. In practice, what this looks like on the ground is that you go to one of our sites and you see a machine operating, and it looks just like any other machine on the forest site. You know, it looks like a normal piece of harvesting machinery. But then when you squint or you get close to the machine, you realize there's nobody in the cab. And in addition to just looking pretty futuristic, it's safer. There's one fewer person exposed to risk on the site. It's ergonomically much more comfortable for operators. We have a team of former lockers who are thrilled to not get bumped around in a machine every day. And it reduces the costs associated with sending people out to these remote locations. But our secret sauce is that we can leverage autonomous capabilities through this teleoperation interface that allows a single remote operator to control multiple machines at once. And this is a multiplier on productivity, where we can now allow one person to control multiple machines across different geographies. So here's a video that provides a little bit of context into what our operations actually look like. This is a video from the park fire burn scar. This operation is critical to the reforestation efforts that are happening on that land. And you'll see that this is our machine actually being operated from several thousand miles away. The site's in Northern California, and the operator, you'll see this is his view, is actually running this machine from northern Mississippi. And he's running it at comparable productivity levels to a manual operator. He sees machine telemetry, gauges, productivity trackers in real time, and is able to operate the machine acceptably to provide meaningful help on that site. And with that video, I'll close. If you're interested in seeing more, you're welcome to visit our website, the link to which I'm including on this slide here. You're also welcome to reach out to me with any specific questions. My email and phone number are there. I'm available on WhatsApp. Thank you all for your attention, and thanks to the World Bank for hosting this wonderful conference. Have a pleasant rest of the day.
Thanks a lot, Joe. I think that was a really good glimpse into the future in terms of what we've seen on the roads in many places, which is vehicles which are unmanned. Now to think of also heavy equipment that's unmanned. There's also, I remember maybe it was Korea, a few others, they're even trying robots to actually do forest fire fighting as well. They were deploying in different places. So it's, I think, a whole new world that's going to be there in terms of these kinds of hardware technologies as well. As another example of this, we'll have another virtual presentation from Clinton Neumann from BurnBot. And he's a managing director of BurnBot Asia Pacific and driving the regional expansion there of these innovative mitigation, wildfire mitigation solutions. And they are trying to see again, how to do exactly what we heard, which is reduce risk and support a lot of activities to manage forest and climate adaptation and so on. And he has spent over 20 years in fire and emergency services, primarily in the frontline operations and then eventually into senior leadership in the Queensland Fire and Emergency Services in Australia. And he has led large-scale incident responses and played a pivotal role in developing bushfire management strategies across the state, and has a strong focus on modernizing service delivery and integrating technology, community engagement, and risk-based planning. So let's hear from Clinton. BurnBot.
All right, I'm going to assume you can hear me well, and I'm going to get to do it. So thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this morning about BurnBot. BurnBot is a company that I joined out of the interest of their novel approach. So the co-founders came together in 2020 and started working on a few different projects and formed BurnBot in 2022 to build out their prescribed fire robot. And since then, they've amplified their mission of looking to mitigate destructive wildfires globally by building out an operational company that integrates technology from a range of sources, including our prescribed fire robots, the RX-controlled blackline machine, along with remote mastication tools and remote-controlled, remotely operated forestry mulchers, through to a large-scale forestry business that has stewardship projects in the western US in the thousands of acres. So our focus is on balancing wildfire prevention with ecological preservation for those safer and healthier landscapes. We understand the need that this intervention into the forest needs to be gentle and respectful to the ecology and make sure that we're not clear felling large portions of forest for the benefit of reducing fire risk. We need to embrace good fire and promote how we can make sure that fire is used as part of our ecosystem. The beneficial fire remains, the obligate seeders get the opportunity to germinate, and how we can fuse the technology that we see and that we develop and bring into the space with the tradition of forest work that's been done for millennia and in a range of different cultures around the globe. So what we're really focused on is bringing the right tool to the right acre at the right time. And how we do that is through three key sort of areas. We incorporate a range of technologies using remote sensing, advanced analytics, data models to analyze and prioritize what areas should be treated and what interventions are going to be most useful to modifying the high-risk fuel in those locations so that we can reduce the risk and exposure to communities, critical infrastructure, and ensure that forests are well balanced and have a healthy fire regime in place. Once that work is done, we engage and treat the fuel in those locations by partnering with local communities and agencies, along with land managers and large land owners, to implement strategic fuel treatments that use our stack of technologies, be it the remote mastication technologies, so remotely operated forest mulchers, whether it's our proprietary prescribed fire blackline machine, or the use of drones with aerial ignition alongside our surveillance and overwatch capabilities. Following that, we need to close the loop with the monitoring and maintenance because, as we all know, vegetation has a bad habit of returning after a period of time when it's been treated or modified, and so we need to ensure that the strategies in place are done so in a planned and programmed way over time so that we continue to manage those fuel loads and ensure that the work that's been done in terms of risk modification remain current and effective as we go on. So what this looks like in practice scales depending on the type of intervention that we're making. So you'll see a couple of different examples in terms of where we've done fuel modification work on the screen here, whether that be where we've used a fuel break as a buffer for structures which have exposed risk from a particular predominant wind factor, whether we've taken a huge chunk of fuel out as a buffer zone or a fuel break underneath the HOA and community, through the strategic treatment of fire debris and restoration work. I've got a brief video that sort of will work through some of our technologies, and I'll talk to those as we go. So one of the key things about our prescribed fire robot is the ability to scale the opportunity to get mitigation work done, in particular prescribed fire work. So as you can see, the machine is practically smokeless during operation, which scales the opportunity to get this work done in smoke-sensitive communities. It reduces air quality constraints and allows us to work in those areas such as aged care facilities or healthcare facilities and along roadsides with minimal intervention and disruption. We couple that with remote mastication technology of remotely operated forest mulchers so that work can be done to reduce or change the ladder fuels in those locations where there's a need to define that fuel strata in a different way before fire can be reintroduced to the landscape. So it's about the coupling of technology and ensuring that we bring the right tool to make the right treatment at the right time and enable those acres to be ready to receive fire in a positive way and ensure that we're promoting the healthy balance that should be existing in a healthy forest. Now, I won't dwell on this too much, as I think that we're all pretty strong alignment about the benefits of why we should be doing fuel work and how that mitigation piece fits in. But what I would say is that whilst BurnBot is leaning strongly into mitigation phase of the integrated fire management model, we have a role to play in all facets of that, be that the planning and preparation piece through the use of our technologies from the remote sensing and incorporation of other tools and data systems to identify where interventions should be made, to the practical execution and operation of those technologies in the field, through to the fact that our prescribed fire machines can be used during suppression operations for contingency holding lines, and same with our remote mulchers and masticators can be used to amplify the efficiency of crews in the field, so hand crews in building contingency and containment lines. And those interventions allow us to work across that entire fire cycle to make sure that our technologies are really supporting the workforce and the interventions that are made in wildfire management throughout that life cycle. So a quick overview again in recapping what that tech stack looks like. So we bring mechanised hand crews through our remote operator and masticator machines or forest mulchers, which are an emerging technology in the space. We amplify them with some proprietary software systems and enhancements that we've learned from our time in the forest. Our proprietary prescribed fire machines, and as I said, amplifying that opportunity and that window to get prescribed fire done, not just with the smoke-sensitive community aspect, but also by controlling the temperatures that exist in those machines, we get a wider opportunity of fuel windows to operate within. So fuel that's still quite green and wet can be treated, albeit a little bit slower, as you'd expect, right through to marginal conditions that would potentially be otherwise unwise to be introducing fire into the landscape using conventional methods. With the lower ember cast and the lack of risk of escape, or lower risk of escape, that allows us to broaden the window and the period of time that prescribed fire can be used as a tool to manage the risks from vegetation in the community. Now, I breezed through that quite a bit because I'm cognizant of time. But what I would like to say in closing is that BurnBot exists to modernise how we live with fire, combining the technology and the ecology to amplify workforces in the scaling of bushfire and wildfire prevention through vegetation treatment. We've got plenty of resources available online. I'm disappointed that I didn't get the opportunity to be there in person with you and have a booth, but please feel free to reach out at any time and have a further conversation about what we've got. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Clinton, again. And I think that was an excellent demonstration of how man and machine can work together to look at improving preparedness for forest fires by managing fuels better. And I think that was a great selection of technologies to see how to make that happen. Our last lightning talker is going to be Ahmet Dabanlı'nın. From Başarsoft in Turkey. He has a booth outside. They have a booth on Başarsoft, just outside the exit here. And he's graduated with his bachelor's in mechanical engineering, in environmental engineering. And he completed his master's in Department of Geodesy and Geographic Information Technologies of METU. And he did his PhD in GIS at Eskişehir Technical University as well in Turkey. And he teaches as part-time lecturer in Gazi, Bursa, and a couple of other universities whose names I can't pronounce. And he is the founding partner of Başarsoft and MapBis Incorporated. And since his graduation, he's worked on GIS and as a developer and project manager in the private sector, and then also in the public administration abroad for about 5 years. He's worked in corporate and integrated GIS systems, smart city management, network management, navigation, city information systems, and so on. And he's worked on several projects, including forest afforestation, erosion, flooding, water leaks, and a whole range of other systems. So good to see a man of many deeds. So over to you, Mr. Ahmed, for your presentation.
Thank you for the introduction. My name is Ahmet. I'm environmental engineer and I'm co-founder of Başarsoft company. Our presentation is about forest fire decision support system, fire behavior, understanding the fire behavior and how to suppress the forest fires. Our company, Başarsoft company, is a GIS-based company, is like around 30 years. We are on the field. Our main areas are GIS-based system, decision support system, or business intelligence system, and smart cities utilities. We have more than 300 expert engineers in our company. We have CMI maturity level 3, and we have lots of solutions in different areas. And also, we do data collection from field for navigation and for assets for utility companies or government companies, and we supply maps to Google and Apple for navigation. About our project started in 2022, and it was like a 9-month project duration. So there was lots of experts from universities and also from General Directorate of Forestry. More than 30 experts, but they are highly skilled experts and with hundreds of years of experience of General Directorate of Forestry. They led us this project to have a good solution and fitting solutions, like more than 95% similarity between the model result and the real fire area covered. When we compare, there are lots of also parameters used in the system, and more than 1,000 users of the system. This fire spread model simulation, modeling and simulation study, there are lots of models, custom models used, including international ones, and also they are designed and derived from international, and we adapt to the Turkish General Director of Forestry, and there are lots of data integrated from the General Director of Forestry and other government companies like meteorology and other state organizations. We developed some algorithms and we made some simulation module, and with AI-based AI-driven algorithm, the system gives us intervention mechanism and workforce management analysis, so we can stop the fire before it's getting more dangerous, and it calculates some risk assessment. Okay. So there are lots of data integrated from meteorology, from existing forestry data, topography, data coming from UAV devices, vehicle tracking systems from the field teams. We have some built-up areas, water resources, and some road data. Video yönetebilir miyiz? There is a video. Okay, this is this thing like a game, and we can play with the model. So you can start and stop at any time. You can start the model, the fire, and then you can give the parameters, and you can see what if analysis, what kind of things can be happen if the fires go like this, and what if I take this kind of intervention mechanism, how it can be stopped early. Like here, we can open a road and we can give some water from the helicopters. So how to stop the fire as early as possible. Bu videoyu da oynayalım. And also the algorithm takes into account all the terrain and the slope data into consideration. Even if the wind speed and direction is against the terrain, the hills, but it can grow against the hills. And also you can see the spot points where, due to the wind and the energy of the fire, and bunu da oynatalım videoyu. And it's a real case after finding the start point of the fire, based on the meteorological conditions. You can see in 2-3 hours where the fire can reach in the field, and you can stop at any time, and you can add data, whatever precautions taken in the field, into consideration of the model, so you can rerun the model, so it gives you what can be done or what can happen after the intervention mechanisms, prevention mechanisms. Bunu da çalıştırabilir miyiz? Gelmiyor. Yok. Önemli değil, tamam. Anyway, so it gives you, based on AI analysis, how many field teams and how many field vehicles or air vehicles you need to use. It gives the numbers, and also it gives where are the nearest machines and field equipments and teams. And then you can you can make analysis based on the best practice, how you can stop the fire within short period of time. The model also gives us risk assessment model, which areas are high and or moderate risk areas based on the forestry inventory of the General Director of Forestry of Turkey, sorry. The benefits of the system, it's an AI-based system, so it gives intervention suggestions and amount of necessary staff and equipment, and workforce assignment from the web and mobile models, and it can be updated also from mobile data. Simulate how the fire spread based on the methodology and organization expertise. This is also very important because of the we cannot go with just the model with mathematics. Organizational expertise is much more important. We can remodel the system with near real-time UAV and drone imagery, so we can predict much more better. And also we can remodel according to interventions taken or not taken. So in the office they can do this from web application, but from the field they can use the mobile platform. There are some real case examples, especially for the major fires. One is, it was in Çanakkale in 2023. It was a major fire, and after simulation, all the precautions taken and on the locations, and it stopped the fire that will reach to the Buyultepe area in 3 hours. And the next one is about the military base case, which there was a limited area, accessed area. Here we can see. This is the before the fire, and this is after the forest fire. So the fire was in the south side of the hill, and there is a nearby road seen there, but it is not actually accessible from there. So you have to get permit to enter the military area from the pink point, pink arrow, and by taking precautions from the blue arrows from the model, the fire stopped before it's reached to the naval base, which is about to happen in 2 hours. They need to excavate things, and they have to move the people and other things. So this model helped us too much. And what's about the future of the project based on the IDOP framework? So there will be, we will use the historical fire data and compare with the fire spread model and improve the model with the machine learning. The use of forestry towers and drone imagery we will facilitate for the fire analysis, especially for the finding the start point of the fire. Within the work order assignment module, fire response teams will be managed through the, especially from the mobile application, because there are lots of things they have to decide in the field immediately. By making the data updatable from the users, the feedbacks will become, and it will be input for the fire spread model, so the model will give us better results. The fire spread model will be improved also by increasing the spatial resolution of the meteorological data. Currently, we are using 3 kilometer data for the wind speed and wind direction. And fire behavior will be predicted by using not only by slope, but also it will include the curves of the topography. So these are the for the future. We have several offices in Turkey and in US. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. That was really good to see how more integrated decision support tool could be used, especially to simulate fires as we go ahead and make it part of the arsenal to collect data from different sources and be able to visualize these for operational management. We'll have the panel as such, and we'll bring in our two discussants who will also add extra thoughts. First up is Kevin Marriott. We have the whole hotel named after him. And he is in charge of XPRIZE Wildfire. He's a senior technical lead at XPRIZE and is considered a visionary technologist and strategic leader with deep expertise in drones, wildfires, and frontier innovation in this regard. And he is representative in many ways of the third big grouping we talked about earlier, which is in terms of platforms to help bring people together and disrupt in that space to have competitions. And XPRIZE is one of the leading folks who are trying to do competitions in many different topics. And he has a background that starts with elite military service, including 14 years with the British Army and UK Special Forces as a communication specialist. And he also has a lot of work on cutting-edge technology and systems disruption, and is working towards shaping the future of environmental resilience, leveraging autonomous systems, AI, robotics, bold moonshot thinking, and to look at crises such as managing destructive wildfires, biodiversity loss, ecosystems collapse, and so on. And so we look forward to hearing from you, Kevin, in terms of your thoughts on where this is all going.
Thanks, Harsh. Okay, hi everybody. As Harsh just mentioned, my name is Kev Marriott. I'm a tech lead at XPRIZE. So what is XPRIZE? XPRIZE operates multi-million-dollar global prize competitions to solve the grand challenges of our time. We believe that solutions to the world's problems can come from anyone at anywhere. So we recruit teams from all over the globe, all over the world. We're inclusive. We make sure that teams from less rich nations are able to compete as well. And we've been going for 30 years, so not many people know that some people think that XPRIZE is fairly new. We've been going for 30 years. The first prize was a prize that incentivized space travel for civilians. And the winner of the team was, the technology was purchased by Richard Branson, and the team had to prove that they could send an aircraft into space and then land back down and then send it back up in 2 weeks. So that meant that they couldn't just use rockets. It had to be a reusable aircraft. And we stated those requirements as part of the competition. So why this is important is because the biggest challenge that we had when we launched this prize was getting the policy changes to be able to send aircraft up into space. At that time, the only people that could go up to space was government agencies. So government agencies were the ones. If you flew above, going into space as a civilian, you'd probably get shot down, especially above US airspace at that time. So we had to get policy changes with the FAA to be able to enable that. And these are some of the challenges that we're also facing with bringing in some of the technologies that you've heard over the last couple of minutes and getting those adopted by end users. So, changes in policy, just remember that one. So we're running XPRIZE Wildfire. So what is that? XPRIZE Wildfire is a 4-year, $11 million competition incentivizing the innovation of firefighting technologies that will end destructive wildfires so that humanity and beneficial wildfire can safely coexist. We're about 2 years through the competition, or just over halfway, and the prize aims to transform current wildfire management approaches through the development of new technologies that can rapidly and accurately detect, characterize, and respond to wildfires before they become destructive. So there's 2 tracks to the prize. There's track A, which is a space-based track, which is wildfire detection and intelligence, and then track B, which is autonomous wildfire response. So we're sponsored by the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation and PG&E, as well as those other sponsors on there, but the main 2 are the Gordon and Betty Moore and the PG&E Foundation. We've got a really dedicated team within XPRIZE that runs this competition. You may have come across some of these folks at some of the fire conferences. We're going to be stepping up our presence over the next 2 years as we help communicate the prize and the teams that are still in the competition and help them with their transition from competing teams to commercializing. So we've got an advisory board as well, so these guys help us with answering questions and developing the prize and how we actually validate some of these cutting-edge technologies as we progress them through a development cycle. And then we have a judging panel as well. The judging panel are the ones that make the sole decision on the winning teams and which teams go forward. So XPRIZE doesn't do that. We set the stage, the competing teams put on the show, and the judges are the ones that decide who wins and who goes forward. So the 2 tracks then, I'll start off track A, space-based detection and intelligence. And teams within this track have 1 minute to accurately detect all fires across a landscape larger than entire states or countries, and 10 minutes to precisely characterize and report that data with the least false positives to decision makers on the ground. So that's a little bit of a mouthful. Essentially, it's just smart detection from space, more accurately and more timely. Track B is the autonomous detection and suppression. So this is all ground-based, and it's using cutting-edge technology to be able to detect fire on the ground. You heard from a couple of the teams a few minutes ago that are actually competing in the competition, and then sending up technology to suppress those fires. So teams within track B have 10 minutes to autonomously detect and suppress a high-risk fire in a 1,000 square kilometers of environmentally challenging area and leave any decoy fires untouched. So that's quite a challenge. And the restrictions on that mean that the teams have to surveil 1,000 square kilometers and be able to detect and characterize a fire within that 1,000 square kilometers as high risk or destructive, and then suppress that fire to extinguish within 10 minutes. So that pretty much limits the deployable systems to just being aerial-based systems. So all of the teams that are competing are using some kind of UAV or some kind of launchable device to extinguish a fire. So I can't go through any of the actual technologies because it's an ongoing competition. You heard from some of the teams, but I'll let you use your imagination as to what that is. The competition for track B is going down to the semi-final stages. By the end of this year, we'll be selecting 5 finalists within the competition, and then those 5 finalists will go through a rigorous testing in July next year, and then from there, the judges will be selecting the winning team. But all the teams that go through to the finals, they're all going to be legitimate teams with viable solutions to the problem. So some of those problems that we have, fighting fires, and this is more relating to the Track B systems. We heard a lot about the space-based stuff already from some of the guys, but the core problems is time, response time. I'll coin a phrase from medics, time is tissue. So in this case, we've heard about carbon, so time is carbon for this. The more time that's spent, fires are doubling in size from anywhere between 30 seconds to 10 minutes in well-managed areas. So that's the sort of time, if we can cut that down and respond to those fires earlier, it's going to be easier to suppress, and there's less environmental damage and less costs. So accessibility, one of the restrictions, accessibility, the clue is in the title, right? Wildfires. It's in wild lands, difficult places to get to, difficult places to manage. So getting these assets deployed to suppress fires in these areas, they have to overcome this accessibility. So the best way of doing that for the teams within 10 minutes is using UAVs. And detection and accuracy and precision. So using new technologies to be able to detect fires and characterize them. So we're talking about smart detection here, not just detecting fires. They've got to be able to detect it and then also prove that it's not just somebody grilling a barbecue or lighting a fire or burning something in a barrel. It is an actual destructive wildfire. So they need to be able to detect it and characterize it and then suppress it in 10 minutes. So yeah, it's really, really ambitious. But that's what we do at XPRIZE. We really push the boundaries as to what's possible. And the teams, when they're competing, they're really up against it. And it's a 4-year competition, but by the time the competition's ending, the technology is at the point where it's commercialized. It's able to be scaled and is ready for market. And we manage that process, that development process, by having down selects throughout different milestone achievements throughout the prize. Extreme weather operations. So the teams have to be able to fly these UAVs with in extreme winds. So we saw from the LA fires, there was winds up to like over 100 miles an hour. So that pretty much grounds all air assets. So in this case, it's going to be difficult to get a UAV to fly it in 100-mile-an-hour winds. So that's not going to be possible. But can they fly at 40, 50, 60 miles an hour winds? That's the challenge that we're putting the teams up against. And then it's also a siloed industry. So what we've done within XPRIZE, we're looking at turnkey solutions to be able to solve the problem. We don't just want somebody doing detection and then another team doing suppression. The teams have to come up with the entire solution to be able to detect, get to there, so navigate to the system, and then be able to suppress the fire to extinguish. So we're bringing together these siloed industries and getting them working together as a team. So the kind of solutions in development then, so they're going to improve the accuracy and precision of detection from ground and space, and then provide rapid and actionable intelligence to fire managers. So we've heard a lot about data. Everybody's talking about data, and Harsh alluded to it earlier. Data is what analysts use, it's what statisticians use, it's what scientists use. Actual decision makers, they don't need data. They need actionable information or actionable intelligence. Introduce the autonomous solutions to firefighting. So we're bringing this new technology and autonomy to firefighting. And like I said, turnkey end-to-end solutions for rapid detection all the way through to suppression. I know that was like quick fire, but I'm trying to save on time here, but I'll hand it back over to Harsh. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin, for that. And I think it's great to see how frameworks like this help unleash the power of creativity that's spread all through the world. And hopefully we can all get behind these kinds of efforts to have competitions so that it unearths a lot more, not only from the developed world, but also from the developing world, as he said, to try and find more innovative ways to bring in technology for different activities. So we have one other speaker that we have recorded. So we'll make this available as part of the interactive materials and ebooks that we'll have as part of this. That's Sarah Russell from Google. And she works at X, which is Google's innovation division, and is a graduate of Harvard College, Harvard Medical School, Wharton School, and so on, and practices medicine part-time in Stanford Hospital in Palo Alto, California. And she also is a technology lead of Bellwether X. And she came to our Planet forum recently in DC, and we were all very impressed with the kind of work that they're doing to bring in technology. So you'll hear a little bit more about that online. But while we have you all here, just one, since we are running really short on time, we'll just go quickly through all those who are, I think, connected. If Sam, you're still on, and also all of you, starting with Mr. Ahmed, working back over here. Just a quick minute on what you see as the technologies that are coming in, because all of you already have a front row seat in many aspects of this technology. But looking at what you saw from the others today, are there any ideas that you're getting in terms of for forest fire management? What could be the next big thing that we are looking at? I'm not sure if Sam is still connected online. We can go to him so that he can go to sleep in Canada. But if he already has, no, he's not. Okay, good. So then we'll start with Mr. Ahmed. Mr. Ahmed? So quickly, from your point of view, what do you see as the new technologies to help forest fire management beyond what you have presented, but maybe learning from what others have presented today? Keep speaking.
There are lots of actually things must integrated to fight with the forest fires. So there are aerial technologies, land technologies, some remote sensing, IoT technologies. We combine all of them. And this hard work, and from the operation management side, there should be some decision support systems and prevention systems. And in the mobile side, there should be some mobile system, online system, so you can communicate bidirectional way to stop or at least eliminate the risk. So the world is as a smart thing. Smart means it should be actually, everything should be integrated. And the only thing is the climate change, technology change. So we have to change also and adapt ourselves to make this kind of things working for everybody and for our world and for our climate better and wiser way.
Well said. And I think the whole idea is integration for a lot of the work that we're doing. So, Mr. Carsten, your thoughts?
Would agree to that. The key thing really is, I don't think that there is a single silver bullet to wildfire. There's not a single solution. You deploy that, and then everything is great. What we need is really a cocktail of application, a portfolio of applications, because each technological approach has its advantages, but also its weakness. And if we deploy multiple applications, we can combine the advantages of one solution with the disadvantages of another. So the one advantage of a solution cancels out the weakness of another. So I think we should stop competing, really. It's not about competition. It's about integration and synergy, because all of these solutions, they have all their place in the field. Just like in media, you know, when TV came, that wasn't the end of newspapers. We still have newspapers around, because each of these technological approaches have their advantages and disadvantages. And so in wildfire, I see the same. I do not believe that, you know, we do this sensor thing, right? And we believe it's the greatest thing on earth, right? So buy a lot of them. Yes, please. But it's not going to solve the problem. It's just one piece of the puzzle. It's an important piece, but we need to apply all of them. Yeah, we need to suppress and prevent lightning, which I think is an exciting solution that I've learned about today. If we can get rid of lightning, that would be great. It would just eliminate the need for fire suppression, at least to some extent. But you know, satellites are doing a massive application, and we all have to depend on them. But also, they're not the silver bullet solution. You need many solutions, and then integration becomes the key event. So I believe that the solution of integration, like you guys are doing here, is actually great. So I'll pass on to my next speaker.
Okay, thank you. Sean.
I think that just the whole idea of integrated fire management, what we're talking about here with all these different technologies, I echo what he said in terms of a cocktail for technology, but what I really see because of the integrated nature, the globalization of and understanding of wildfire is the comprehension and training portfolio that's going to come with it. Because as we educate our fire managers today and the younger generations coming up, they won't make the same mistakes we have, hopefully. And then as that fire management grows and that knowledge base grows, as we develop technology, that information flow through training materials, integrated approaches where we look at it as a landscape and not specifically as a political jurisdiction or a country or anything like that, that will start to propagate across the globe, and we'll look at fire as a whole ecosystem as it works through its different areas of the globe. With that, the younger generation will then be more readily adoptable to new approaches and not just do the same thing over and over, which has kind of got us into the situation that we're at today.
Thanks. Konstantin?
Yeah, I can just agree on what everyone said before. So the key part is the integration and complementing everything into solutions that work then for the specific regions, starting with the sensors going to drones, cameras, and space-based solutions, bringing that all together. But I think the key part that will be changing in the coming years is that there's just so much more data available globally, and trying to just bring all of that together and derive actually then from that the insights that help the people on the ground. And I guess that relates to what Sean was just saying, also then the training component. We already see right now that with so much data available and a variety of tool sets that all different organizations are using, the key part is really translating all of these inputs there to actionable insights and train everyone effectively. So I think that's the key challenge then going ahead, bringing all of that together to really address this problem globally.
Thanks, Konstantin. Final thoughts from you, Kevin?
Yeah, so just to labour the point again about the the integration, not just integration of technologies to other technologies, but also the integration within people and current workflows, and being prepared for the adoption of that technology and these different ways of thinking. So I'm hearing more about intelligence-led sort of firefighting. So using intelligence as a way to better position assets, better manage assets, and be prepared. So not just for reacting to wildfires, but also being proactive and getting ahead of it. So using this intelligence and all of the maps and the cool systems that we saw over the last couple of hours, and using that to make informed decisions on being able to better conduct land management to prevent fires, and then using the technology to respond to wildfires if those other methods have failed. So having these different tools in the box, but then being able to make sure that we're ready for the adoption. So the policy changes that need to happen in order to adopt the technology. We're not just going to be able to fly drones with payloads to be able to deliver suppressants without the some kind of interagency task force that includes the Civil Aviation Authority for whatever country these technologies are being deployed at. So being able to bring all these people to the table to make sure that the technology can actually be deployed and used, and doing that before they actually come on board, so to make sure that we can respond to emergencies and have the technology actually used is really, really important. And wildfire is inevitable, but disaster doesn't have to be. We just have to make sure that we're ahead of it and make sure that the policies are there. And it's going to take bold and kind of future thinking or forward thinking leadership to be able to make sure that this happens. throughout all chains of command from the top down, and then making sure that those that are using the technology are open-minded enough and willing to be able to bring it in and actually work with it and integrate with it. I think that's really important. And I suppose the other aspects to it is to policy is also funding. These technologies and everything is going to come at a cost, but I don't think that the question is, can we as nations afford to be able to integrate and bring in this technology? The question is, can we afford not to?
That's a great segue to the next presentations set, which will be on financing, so leveraging financing for fire resilience. So what we'll do is, I won't try to summarize this because Neeta said in the morning that we'll all do a little summary later. So we'll wait for that, given the time that we've horribly overshot. Just like to thank you all for excellent presentations, for showing us different aspects of how forest fire management can be tackled with new technologies. And it's been a pleasure to listen to all of you, and we'll listen to more Sarah and others online as well in the interactive materials that we put together. But hopefully we can keep this conversation going so that we can all learn from each other and try to keep up with new technologies as they are coming together, and see how to not only integrate them, but as you said, operationalize them, going beyond technology to the institutional and policy and financing aspects as well. So thank you all. What I suggest is, please go get a little break, get coffee, and come immediately back so that we can restart, I think, at noon for the next session. Right? So if we'll have Neeta to talk to us about what's coming next. But thank everyone in the panel very much for all of their work.
Thank you, everyone. Now this is a very, very well-deserved coffee break, because